Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk the ball. Chris Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. My name is Jeff Spiegel, and we got a four-boxer today. Matthew Moreno, Blake Williams, Scott Geirman, all joining me. We got a full crew because there is a lot to talk about. We're less than 24 hours away from the trade deadline, and the Dodgers haven't really been doing a ton today. Lots of other moves happening. The Giants making moves. Some of the Dodgers targets, potential targets, getting moved. But so far, the Dodgers have been quiet, although, Matt, the LA Times had a piece today kind of updating us on the latest rumblings and rumors. So why don't we start there? Give us a summary of what the Times reported as it relates to Justin Verlander and the other potential options out there.
Yeah, so Jack Harris from the LA Times has been putting out different updates over the past week or so, and obviously is the beat reporter for the Times, said basically Justin Verlander remains kind of the Dodgers' plan A, is how he was referred to. And I don't think that necessarily comes as much of a surprise to anybody. It sort of has felt like it's been trending in that direction the past few days. With that, though, there are hurdles that remain. I know we're going to get into it. Financially, prospects that the Mets would potentially get, stuff like that. If a Verlander trade doesn't happen with the Dodgers, then Jack is reporting that plan B is Eduardo Rodriguez from the Tigers, who, he's an interesting option. All of this is on the heels of the Dodgers, primarily, the report being that they're focused on pitchers who are under team control beyond this season. Now, Rodriguez is technically, but he could also opt out after this season. And so that's a little bit of an issue there. Of course, we saw with Max Scherzer that, he could get traded and say, yeah, I'm opting in. So maybe the Dodgers work something like that out if that's the plan B that they need to go with. Jack also said that basically plan C is that they potentially don't necessarily do anything outside of those two in terms of starting pitchers because of impact guys. There aren't really many out there, which is something that we've been discussing. I know on whether myself or Blake or Scott on different shows, is just like in terms of aces, they're just not on the market right now.
Yeah. It's an interesting set of options. Blake, I'll just ask this simply to you. If the costs were the same, would you rather have Justin Verlander and his contract or Eduardo Rodriguez?
Verlander is the more talented option, so I'm going to go with him there. From a personal standpoint, I like Eduardo Rodriguez more. Dodger fans may remember him as the guy Yasiel Puig hit the home run off of in the 2018 World Series. So there might be some bad memories there from some fans, but he's been a pretty talented pitcher for a long time. And I think he has some more upside than what he's shown with the Tigers. He's kind of feasted on the AL Central this year, which is a little concerning, but he'd also have the Dodgers pitching coaches and defense behind him, so that might help. But Verlander's still been pitching at an ace level, and really for me, it just comes down to getting the contract in the right place with him and how much the Mets would want.
Scotty, what about you? If you had all things equal, Eduardo Rodriguez or Justin Verlander, which would you prefer?
In a rare Dodger Blue thing here, I fully agree with everything Blake said. Yeah, Justin Verlander's, is an ace level type pitcher, and the Dodgers do need that. I think that if they're able to figure out the contracts, and there's a lot to figure out there, considering he's got an option year and it's just an astronomical number. All things aside, Justin Verlander's the more talented guy. Eduardo Rodriguez has been, very solid, but just like Blake said, I'm not sure that the competition he's been up against is something that would stand up to where Verlander is currently at and could be.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I actually think I would go the other way. I think I would prefer Eduardo Rodriguez. Rodriguez has better numbers this year. If you're looking at ERA, if you're looking at FIP, if you're looking at some of the StatCast metrics, his StatCast page is bright red. He's above average, top 25th, 25 percentile in exit velocity, hard hit rate, walk rate. Strikeout rate is above average. Barrel rate's above average. So lots of positives there. Rodriguez, I mentioned his ERA is better than Verlander. His FIP is better than Verlander. He's also a lot younger. Matt, you mentioned the contract. The Rodriguez contract is interesting because the Rodriguez contract, I think he's going to opt out of it because after the years he's having, 3 years and $49 million, which is what is owed to him after this year. I think he's going to do better than that on the starting pitching market. We're looking at the cost of prospects the teams are giving up for starting pitching. If that translates to actual dollars spent, I think Rodriguez is going to get more. So that's probably part of the issue is, are the Dodgers trading for a guy that they're going to get 3 more years of control, or which is probably what the Tigers were trying to sell. Whereas the Dodgers are probably like, there's no chance this guy is not opting out. And he'll get at least 3 years, $50 million somewhere else and be in a better situation than Detroit is probably my guess. The Verlander contract, on the other hand, is a disaster to me. I mean, he's owed 43 and change this year, 43 and change again next year. And then a vested option, which basically if he pitches 140 innings next year, he would be owed another 35 million after that. So 78 plus million for 2 years of Verlander after this. He will be, I believe it's 41 by the time next season starts. Yeah, that's correct. So obviously, if money is involved, that changes the calculus, which is what makes this a little bit more complicated when evaluating these two. It's like, well, how many years of Rodriguez are we getting, and how much money are the Mets including? But that's what makes it interesting. Matt, I'll ask you the same question just to complete this. Rodriguez or Verlander? Are you on Team Blake and Scott, or are you on Team Jeff?
I'm going to join your team, and admittedly, there is a lot of 2017 behind my answer. Verlander was on the Astros that year, and I agree with Blake and Scott in the sense that he's the more talented pitcher. I think the Dodgers would get better performance probably out of him. But man, I just can't get past 2017. And I know, like, I'm not running the team, so it doesn't matter. Like, Andrew Friedman, I'm sure, doesn't care. And like, if the Dodgers end up winning a World Series, then that'll probably be something that's, kind of maybe not quickly forgotten, but forgotten to a certain extent. But yeah, I'm still with you. I think it's just a little bit cleaner if they just go for Eduardo Rodriguez. Yeah. But again, like, the problem there is, like you said, I'm sure the Tigers are saying, hey, you could have this guy for 3 more years. Like, yeah, we need X, Y, and Z. And the Dodgers are looking at it as like, no, he's basically just a souped up rental.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a rental with a tease is basically what Eduardo Rodriguez is, I think. And it's interesting looking at previous performance. Massimo, I see the super chat. We're going to get to that here in just a second. Verlander is coming off of a Cy Young season. He's posted 6+ WAR in 2018, 2019, missed basically all of 2020 and all of 2021 before coming back and posting 6 WAR again in 2022. So the last 3 full seasons he has put together, he's been incredible. This year has been a down year. His 3.15 ERA would be his worst since all the way back to 2015. And the 3.82 FIP would be his highest dating back to 2008. So he is 40, going to be 41 next year. I think that complicates things. Let's get to Massimo's question just to sort of add to this. He said, will the Dodgers go after Flaherty or Cease if they can't make a deal for Verlander? What are the Dodgers' backup plans, and who would you trade? So it sounds like Jack Harris did not mention either of these players, that the backup option is Eduardo Rodriguez. And Matt, did I hear right that Harris said that there is no third option, that it's going to be Verlander, or it's going to be Rodriguez, or it's going to be nothing?
Yeah, I mean, that's at least the sentiment for now, but I still would be surprised if that was the case, because I just don't see them not necessarily adding in. Like, I don't think that they can afford to not add another starter, even if it was a second tier, third tier guy at this point.
Yeah, I'm with you. Scott, let's come to the second piece of this. Who would you trade? So this has been the topic of conversation on my timeline. Let's talk Verlander specifically, because he seems to be the most likely option here. If Verlander's on the table, the Mets sent, I believe it was $32 million along with Max Scherzer in order to buy down the cost of his contract, which I think was maybe half of the money that he was still owed basically over the remainder of this year and next year's. So again, Verlander's contract potentially lasts an entire extra year compared to Scherzer's. But let's just say it's something similar, that the Mets are willing to send $30 million along with Verlander. What kind of cost do you think the Dodgers could expect to pay?
So that's kind of been the sticking point for me when trying to think about where this deal could go or where they're currently at. It's how high is that prospect ceiling, or where the Dodgers are comfortable having them. I know, sure, it'd be great to have them pay the whole contract, or how high they're willing to go and what the ceiling is for the prospect they'd give up. If it's a no on Bobby Miller immediately, I don't think that's even something that would be
Mets Twitter isn't going to like to hear that based
they
on
won't
my
like to hear
timeline
that
today, but they're
Yeah.
smoking something if they think Bobby Miller is the price for Verlander at 41 and potentially year 42.
Yeah, so with that contract cost, it definitely that does drive it down immediately. But you already saw what the Mets did with Scherzer, and they tried to pay that a majority of that contract to lessen the financial commitment to bring up that prospect cost. So they're not trying to completely dump them; they're trying to get a very solid prospect back. So if the ceiling, and I'll defer to Blake, I really want to get his thoughts on this. If the ceiling is, say, Sheehan, then if that's a no, then maybe the next two guys are, possibly Frasso, Gavin Stone, and then after that, Landon Knack, Maddox Brunn, stuff like that. So I really think that it's a matter of where the Dodgers are willing to go, how high in the prospects return is kind of, I think, where they're at the moment.
All right, Blake, let's play a game. We're going to put Blake Williams on the spot here, and I'll throw a trade at you, and you tell me if you like it or don't like it. Let's start with the one that he mentioned. Let's assume, again, so Verlander, to be clear, is finishing at a $43.33 million deal this year. He has a $43.33 million guaranteed for next year. He will be 41 in February. And then he has a vested option if he pitches 140 innings next year. In 2025, his year 42 season, he would be owed $35 million as well. So just something to keep in mind there. The luxury tax salary on Spotrac still says 43.3. So take into account all the Ohtani factors you want here when including this. But let's say that the Mets throw in $35 million as part of this deal. And they say, we want Emmet Sheehan straight up. Blake Williams, what is your answer?
That's tough. I feel like I'm on the fence of that one. My first reaction is no, but it also seems like a fair trade. I don't think I'd want to part with Emmet Sheehan, and I tried to talk them into something else. But if that's what they're going to demand, and that's like the only thing they'd accept, I think you have to think about it, because the value of his next few years is still pretty solid. I know 43 million's a lot, but if the Mets are eating a lot of it down, I don't think you're going to find a free agent starter who's going to put up comparable numbers for that cost he's going to be with the Mets paying. So it's tempting, but I'd still try and talk them into a deal of like Stone and Knack or something like that.
Yeah, Stone and Knack, you would say yes to.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing, like the data point to me that for Verlander, that just sticks in my teeth. So the Dodgers offered Verlander. They wanted Verlander. That's worth pointing out. They tried to sign him this offseason. They reportedly offered him a 2-year contract worth $80 million with some deferred money. The contract that the Mets offered Verlander, he wasn't getting from anywhere else. So when everybody had an option and there was no prospect attached to it, this was apparently the cost that the Mets saw value in, but that the Dodgers didn't. So even if $35 million comes over, this is still more money, and more money being paid out quicker than the Dodgers wanted to sign Verlander to 3 or 4 months ago, which is where it gets hard, because now I have to trade away one of my top prospects just to pay Justin Verlander an amount of money I wasn't comfortable paying him 6 months ago. And yes, the equations have changed, and maybe the Dodgers should have paid him that money 6 months ago. But these are just the things I'm talking myself through. Like, I want to emphasize, I think this is a really bad contract that you're absorbing with Justin Verlander. And depending on how much money is included in it, it changes the equation for me. Matt, I said earlier that Bobby Miller, Diego Cartaya, Dalton Rushing, and Emmet Sheehan are the 4 I'm hanging up immediately. I'm not talking about those 4 players in any trade, especially unless Justin Verlander, like, you're paying all of the money. Unless he is free to me, I'm not trading away any of those players because of, in Sheehan's case, what I've already seen happen at the major league level, the years of team control left, etc. So for me, Sheehan is where I draw the line. Gavin Stone as a 1-for-1 is where I'm starting to talk. And I'm saying, okay, you can talk me into, if the money's right, a Gavin Stone straight up for Justin Verlander, but Stone plus a Landon Knack. I mean, again, that just, to me, that's too expensive. I'd rather be swimming in a different pond, going and getting Mitch Keller from the Pirates, which is not who we're talking about here. But I would need more than Verlander, because I would even say if I had paid all the money that they did for Verlander and gotten the season that they've gotten so far, a 3.15 ERA, 3.82 FIP, like, those are good numbers. That's not $43.3 million a year good. And it's definitely not $43.3 million a year next year good. And it's definitely not $35 million in 2 years from now good. So that's where I'm at. Do you think, where are you? Like, is Sheehan a hang up the phone, or is it, in Blake's case, I'm thinking about it, maybe yes, maybe no?
I don't hang up the phone right away, but I'm certainly not inclined to uh, quickly say yes. I think if Sheehan is involved, then for me, the Mets are going to have to pay at least half of the money Verlander is going to be owed, I think is what we're sort of looking at. And it's hard. I mean, as much as Sheehan is a prospect and you don't necessarily know what he's going to fully evolve into, I think we've seen enough to be encouraged. And I'm with you. Like, I would be a little bit more inclined to discuss Gavin Stone. I'm not necessarily quite as sold on him. And to his defense, I think he was, maybe accelerated a little bit, and so was Sheehan, frankly. They were both accelerated much quicker than anybody sort of anticipated. But, you did mention that you would need Verlander plus something else, and I would, kind of tongue in cheek say, well, you're in luck because here's a Tommy Pham that the Dodgers have, sort of been connected to. And so that, honestly, that's what I think for me, any of these trades the Dodgers have sort of mentioned with at this point, I think are going to be multiple players, especially if it's the Mets. I know I told you guys, like, I have a feeling if they do trade for Verlander, it'll be Verlander and Canna or Pham. And now that Canna's been traded to the Brewers, it wouldn't fully surprise me if Pham then comes, just to, maybe find some middle ground in terms of what the Mets are going to pay to cover Verlander's contract, and the Dodgers still sending back some decent quality prospects.
Scotty, where are you at?
Honestly, I think that Justin Verlander's been a really good pitcher. I think that he's an arm that it's impossible to say, contract aside, because it's a hefty commitment. So it's something that I would like to see happen. I know it'd be difficult to part with Sheehan, but if they are willing to find some spot where the money makes sense, I absolutely would be talked into that. This is a front of the rotation starter that has a plethora of postseason experience, and if he is who he has pitched like since coming off IL, I'm all in favor for it. This is they have a ton of salary room next year following, so it's kind of a drop in the bucket, and it's tough to see when you look at it, but if they're able to find a good spot for it, I would absolutely welcome it. And I really think that it's something that they really need to explore. But for Sheehan, I love what he's got. I love his stuff, but it's somebody that I'm not blown away by or won't be devastated. And I don't think it'd be such a bad, like trading a good prospect for a bad player. Like, I know the Lance Lynn deal kind of ruffled some feathers there. So I think that the Justin Verlander, if they're able to find a good spot for the contract, for the prospect, it's a move that's kind of a no-brainer for me, that I want them to be in on it.
And that's what's so hard, to be clear. The value of this trade is impossible without knowing the numbers. Because, like, if Justin Verlander, if you're getting Justin Verlander at what it amounts to a 1-year deal next year at $25 million, and then the following year is a vesting option that's at $20 million or something, like if it's a $45 million commitment and not a $78 million commitment, that's all of a sudden you're getting Justin Verlander, quote unquote, below market value, what he would cost in free agency. And so I think that's the tricky part here. But I just struggle. I mean, like, let me ask you this question, Blake, just to circle back, and we can bounce this one around. Would Justin Verlander be more valuable if this were the final year of his deal, or if you're getting him for the next year and a half, but at the number that he's getting?
I think the team control adds value to him, especially when you look at the Dodgers rotation next year. They have like 2 or 3 guys under contract, and 2 of them are coming off injuries. And I will say with Verlander, like, over his last 9 starts or something, he's been a sub-2 ERA guy. Like, he started the year really bad and then bounced back. And I think that's worth kind of buying into, because it's closer to where he's been throughout his career. So I'm not sure, like, we're getting a 3 ERA guy. Like, he's still an elite pitcher.
Yep.
So getting a year and a half of that guaranteed, plus maybe another year, even if he regresses, like, regressing from elite could still be really good. So you might be overpaying for that final year, but to get 2 years of an elite pitcher, like, it's pretty valuable still.
And that's the question, right? Like, you might be overpaying for an elite pitcher. That's like the conversation we're having is this overpaying? It's less about, like, what kind of pitcher is Verlander right now. I think we would all agree that he's, somewhere between very good and elite. You can choose your verbiage there as you feel fit, but he's very, very good. It's just a matter of, like, maybe what do you think about Sheehan? Like, what's Sheehan's ceiling? Is Sheehan a number 2.5 type starter long term? Is he a number 4.5 type starter long term? With Ohtani potentially being available and the Dodgers maybe needing to have some affordable players on the roster in order to stomach having Ohtani, Freeman, and Betts, which is a conversation for another day. These are all the types of factors that I think Andrew Friedman is going to have to weigh as he navigates this. But again, the story here is Justin Verlander and the prospect cost to acquire him. For me, if I were the Dodgers, I would much rather, and this is not rocket science, I would rather package together a couple guys from, the bottom of the top 10 to 12, the bottom of our, someone in the 6 to 12 range. Give me two of those guys in a deal, rather than one of the top 4 guys. Cause I've got Sheehan in the top 4 for me personally. That's where it would be more interesting to me. And obviously I would much rather them just take on more money and save Sheehan. Like I'm guessing we would all rather do that. Like, can it be Gavin Stone and they take less money? What do you say, Matt?
I think the problem with that though is then it impacts, at least in my estimation, Ohtani, and maybe how aggressive they might be with him in free agency. I think that's another wrinkle too. And also part of me wonders if like the Mets, I forgot who it might have been their GM. Somebody came out from their front office and said, we're not doing a fire sale. This isn't like a complete teardown. So if that is the case, like, can the Dodgers interest them in Tony Gonsolin, who at least, I know he's had some struggle. He's definitely regressed from his all-star season, but he's an experienced MLB pitcher that should help the Mets rotation next season if they've lost now 2 of their big horses that they were expecting to still be there. Maybe Ryan Pepio. And I know, he's been hurt all season long and he's on a rehab assignment now, but he's another has MLB experience. That way, at least if you're the Dodgers, you're not necessarily having to potentially give up so many pitchers who are in that, like, still quote unquote prospect range at the same time.
Yeah. It'll be an interesting one to sort of navigate here for the Dodgers. And again, the beauty of this is we don't have to wait long for answers. We're going to have answers here in the next 24 hours as to what the Dodgers are actively trying to do and how far they are willing to go. Let's get to another super chat. Massimo, thank you again. He asked, will Justin Verlander's relationship with Jim Crane be an issue for Los Angeles? Matt, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so I'm assuming he's going based off of Ken Rosenthal's report that came out like right before we were hopping on to do this, that said the Astros were, at least according to sources, still involved in Verlander sweepstakes. And Jim Crane does have a good relationship with Justin Verlander. I think Crane negotiated the last contract that Verlander ended up signing with the Astros, which was, I think, just the 1-year deal before the lockout or right after the lockout. I forgot what it was. I guess, if you want to look at it as whether or not that's an issue, like that boils down to whether like you want Verlander on the Dodgers or not. So if you're somebody who doesn't want the Dodgers to trade for Verlander, then no, that's not an issue. You're probably standing there cheering, Jim Crane along, get it done, get it done. If you want Verlander in LA, then yeah, you probably are looking at Jim Crane as a bit of an impediment.
Yeah, that's fair. Scott, anything to add here? Do you think, you're a resident Houston guy here, so.
So I'll just say that it does have, Justin Verlander having that no trade clause, definitely does, cloud up this entire thing. He holds all the cards, and if he says he essentially wants to be traded, or the Mets want to trade him to not rebuild but get some value, and they're looking for value. They don't want to just dump his deal as much as eating some of the contract might look like that. They're looking to get prospect value back, and if he says I'll go to Houston and that's the only place, he holds all the cards. So for whatever you think about Houston's farm system, if they think that Justin Verlander will help them, they'll get a deal done there. Whether it's in, guys up on their board or just more value in terms of in numbers. So it could be for multiple, and that might be a route they go. Some dart throws in there, but that's where this hang up could be. Again, there could be multiple hurdles that Justin Verlander might say, just Houston's one, and then, Dodgers 2, and then we have to go from there. So, but I do think it complicates it. And just like Matt said, Athletic, Ken Rosenthal reported that, Jim Crane, was really active in that second deal between them. So it definitely holds a lot in this matter. So I think that it should be at the top, that, it could make it difficult.
Yeah. And I guess the flip side is, I think this came up, Blake, on our show Sunday night, that there were reports in the offseason that Justin Verlander wanted to play in Los Angeles, that his wife was interested in being in Los Angeles, and that had the Dodgers had the money to match what the Mets were offering, that maybe his preference was to be in LA. So I don't know. Sometimes I always wonder if these things are overblown or not. Or like, do we make too much of them or not enough of them? Maybe it depends person to person. We do have another super chat here from Michael, clarifying that more money sent to the Dodgers means more guys going from the Dodgers. Yes, I was saying that if the Dodgers were willing to take on all of Justin Verlander's contract, then maybe they could get away with sending a lesser prospect. Blake, one thing I do see in the chat that I know you've kind of messed around with sometimes, I think in jest more than in seriousness, is kind of these trade value charts and that kind of thing. What do you make of that? They've got, I don't know what the site is that you've used, but there are some out there that kind of future value and add them all up and tell you whether or not it's a good trade or not. What do you make of those?
So basically, it's a system that every team uses where they'll put a number value on every player, like a financial number value. So like if Verlander is worth negative 11 million and then they add 30 million in cash to his contract, then you're getting like a $20 million player essentially. So then the Dodgers would have to add in the prospects to equal like $20 million in value kind of thing. So that's what Trade Values tries to do, that website. Whether it's not entirely accurate, like a lot of teams have every team has their own different ranking for how they come up with players, but I do think it can be a good starting point for fans looking at deals. So one I put together was Verlander and 30 million in cash for the Dodgers for Gavin Stone and Landon Knack, which is kind of why I went with that one earlier. And the values were pretty similar. It was 19 million in value for the Dodgers and 21.6 for the Mets. So slight difference there, but it's close enough where it's a bit of an overpay and something the Mets would maybe consider. So whether the Mets value those guys at that same level and the Dodgers do, probably not. But yeah, I think it's an interesting starting point to kind of look like where you're going to be considering trades.
Yeah, and I like the way you put it. It's a starting point. It's not the end all be all. It's like the NFL draft trade calculator that I've seen where it's like the chart of what the first pick, is worth isn't always the same year to year. And a lot of this is trying to project out how much value is Landon Knack going to be worth, which is the very definition of an imperfect science. And then applying it like it's a black and white guaranteed number, I think is what makes it difficult. But I think these are all fair points. We got a couple more super chats, which we appreciate. Kevin wants to know, what are the chances for LA if they don't add another arm? I think he's asking, like, how do you feel about this team if the Dodgers don't add another pitcher? I'm going to go to Blake last on this one for obvious reasons here. Matt, I'll start with, I don't know who to start with. I'm probably the most positive person here, so maybe I should go first. But Matt, I'll let you go first. If the Dodgers don't add another arm, are they dead?
Close to it. I mean, a lot of things will need to go right for them if this is the roster basically that the Dodgers still have come 24 hours from now, because deadline would have passed. Any sort of last minute deals would have trickled in. So yeah, they would be in some serious October trouble if this is the team.
Yeah. Scotty, would you still be picking the Dodgers to win the NL West if they don't add another starter? I'm not talking World Series. I'm saying, can they hold on to the division as currently constructed?
I would say so. Yeah. I'd say they can win the NL West. Yeah. I mean, you didn't say that when Matt was going. That might have changed his answer a little bit. Yeah.
Scotty got the softball.
Okay, Matt, you want me to put you on the spot and ask you the same question? Matt, are the Dodgers going to win the NL West as constructed?
Yes. Joe Kelly is here. They're not losing this division lead.
See, we got a half serious answer there from Matt, just in case you were, for those paying attention at home. All right, Blakey, it's on a tee for you right out in front of you. Tell us the Dodgers are finishing third in the NL West if they don't trade for a starter.
I think they'll still win the division.
Wow.
I wouldn't be as confident about it.
Sure.
It depends on how the rotation does. Like if Julio bounces back, I don't think any of us really have a huge issue with the rotation. You're just kind of betting on a lot to go right.
Yep.
Like you need Julio, Gonsolin, and Kershaw to stay healthy and not be bad for all three of them. So like you're kind of asking a lot with what they've shown this year, but they still have a talented team overall.
Yeah, I like the way you put it. I mean, basically the Dodgers would be making a bet that out of Julio, Gonsolin, Bobby Miller, Emmet Sheehan, Ryan Pepio, if he comes back, Lance Lynn, like out of those
big Lance
guys,
Lynn.
Yeah, we can't forget. Hard to forget. But out of those 6 guys, in the next 2 months, can 2 of them become people that you trust? And I don't think that's a 0% likelihood. To your point, like, what are the odds that Julio figures something out to the degree of, can he be like a 3.6 ERA pitcher? I don't think any of us would be shocked. Can Tony Gonsolin be a sub 4 ERA guy? Like, maybe not likely, but it's in the realm of possibilities. Can Bobby Miller take a jump? Can Emmet Sheehan build off of his last start? Like, I think Lance Lynn, like, did the Dodgers tweak something with Lance Lynn, and the K numbers are pretty good? Like, I just think it's not a 0% chance. I don't think any of us want to live in a reality where we have to find out the answer to those questions. But there we go. Some positivity from the team. We've got 4 people saying the Dodgers win the division with or without a trade. I, for one, did not see that one coming. We've got another super chat here for you, Scott. We joked that you were our resident Houston guy. The short answer for what that means is that Scott was our pro signing Carlos Correa guy in the offseason. So that's the short answer. But Scott, I'll let you defend yourself now.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, it was Carlos Correa. I enjoy the prospects that they've churned out. Like, it's hard to disagree with that. And that's and then it kind of trickled into, if Carlos Correa is there, he fills a need above. And that's it. I'm not going to go any further. So Carlos Correa was available, and I was like, if he's there and the Dodgers want to spend money, why not? So yeah, I know people are going to go up in arms. Laura's in shambles. Sorry.
So wait,
Scott, long gone now.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, Scott,
he's changing the subject for us. Bigger impact rest of the season: Lance Lynn, Tony Gonsolin, or Bobby Miller? Matt, I'll give you the first shot here. If you had to bet on one of these guys, I'm guessing we might all have the same answer here, but I'll let you go first.
I'll do Lance Lynn because the Dodgers need it. I mean, he's
Blake.
Right
you
now,
thought I was the highest guy on Lance Lynn? There you go.
Right
I'm
now,
not alone, baby. Let's go.
No. Right now, like, I think Bobby Miller, like, we can count on to have a significant impact. Tony Gonsolin, unfortunately, I think his season is what it's been. I think Lance Lynn has the potential there, and it's a little bit of the unknown, right? Like, get him in Mark Pryor's lab and see what can happen.
Blake, that sounds like a B+ for the Lance Lynn trade to me. I don't know. We'll have to go back and check grades later. Scotty, Lance Lynn, Tony Gonsolin, Bobby Miller. Bigger impact rest of season.
I want to say Bobby Miller.
Okay.
I really want to say Bobby Miller.
Do you want to say Bobby Miller? Or
I'm going with Bobby. No. I heard you guys that you dropped a couple slander bombs on me, but I'm going to say Bobby Miller. Because I really want to see his stuff in the postseason, and we kind of know who Lance Lynn is. So let's let Lance Lynn be what he is intended to be. But I really want Bobby Miller to be, a difference maker down the stretch. Hope he finds himself after his first inning. He locked it in the other day, which was great. So Bobby Miller postseason, bring it on, man.
That's who I would say. Blake, are you in the Bobby Miller camp?
I feel like Bobby Miller's the easy answer here, but I'm going to zag a little bit, and I'm going with Tony Gonsolin.
Wow. Really? Yeah, the guy who should be a reliever, Blake is saying is going to be the impact starter.
That's probably going to be his answer. Why?
Well, I have some concerns that if they add another starter, they might give Bobby Miller some rest at some point, and down the stretch, like, that could limit his impact. Lance Lynn, I don't really trust too much. And then with Tony Gonsolin, like, he was good last year. He's been good at preventing runs throughout his career. So maybe he figures something out and he can be an effective starter. And if he doesn't, like, I could see him becoming a really good reliever for the team, like I've mentioned. So if you're talking about impact down the stretch and into the playoffs, like Tony Gonsolin pitching 3 innings out of relief in a playoff game, like, that could be valuable, like Julio did in 2020.
You could have bet me $20 5 minutes ago on Blake's answer there, and I would have bet every dollar in my wallet. There's no chance he says Tony Gonsolin on that one. And yet or that I was not going to be the highest man on Lance Lynn from here on out. So there we go. Laura, we've got another super chat from you. We appreciate it. How many home runs does Lance Lynn give up tomorrow? Scotty, you want to go? Or we'll like Blake. Blake's the low man on Lance Lynn. We'll give you the first shot here.
It's the A's, so I'm going to say 1 just because it's the A's. But if it was any other team, like a major league team, I'd probably go with 2.
Scotty?
I'm going to say none.
I like to see optimism.
I'm going none.
Okay, so in his last start, he gave up 0. He gave up 4 the week before, the start before against Minnesota, 2 before that against the Braves. So he's allowed, this isn't going to, there we go. 28 home runs he's allowed in 21 starts this season. So there's your Lance Lynn. But that was before he got in the Mark Pryor lab, right, Matt?
Yeah, but I don't know how much time he's had in it so far. So I'm with Blake. My first reaction was 2, and then I remembered that they're playing the A's, so I'm settling on 1.
I'm going 0. Scotty over here. We're going 6 innings, 2 earned runs for Lance Lynn tomorrow. Give me 6 Ks too. It's going to be a nice little outing for Lance Lynn. People are going to start buying the stock. They're going to forget that they're playing the A's.
This
they're
guy.
Buy the Lance
oh
Lynn
my
stock.
God.
And then here we go. Yeah. So there you go. That's my Lance Lynn prediction. I've already said I think 6 innings, 4 earned. Figure out the ERA on that one. It's at a 6 ERA. I think that's what you. If you give me 6 innings, 4 earned every time out, Lance Lynn, I'd be fine with that. Matt would not be fine with that.
No, not 4. No, yeah.
I mean, look, I'm saying that's an upgrade over what he's been. That's an upgrade over what the Dodgers have been getting out of the number 5 starter. In case you haven't seen.
Well, he's not here to be their number 5 starter, I think is the problem.
Oh, he absolutely should be. In my mind, he's the number 5 starter. So he's not better than Bobby Miller. He's not better than Gonsolin, and he's not better than Julio. So, like, who's he better? Who's spot in the rotations he taking?
I mean, I think in a realistic world, the Dodgers aren't relying on even 2 rookies in their rotation.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, obviously, Kershaw coming back, hopefully, potentially in the next 10 days or so will change things. But anyway.
Yeah. And to be clear, I joke about having a 6 ERA because a 6 ERA, if it's 4 earned in 6 innings every single time, that's way different than like the Michael Grove experience where it's 2 good starts and then 8 earned in 3 innings the next time out, where it all just evens itself out to a 6 ERA. So that's where I'm at. So, okay, let's end this show real quick. Let's end with some predictions here. I'm going to go rapid fire here. Matt, we'll start with you. Do the Dodgers trade for Justin Verlander? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. Do they trade for Eduardo Rodriguez?
No.
Okay. That's not good. If you're following Jack Harris, then he says those are the only 2 options. Blake, we're coming to you next. Do the Dodgers trade for Justin Verlander?
I'm going with no on both of them just because I think it's like 20% odds. So I'm going to take the bet here. Like, I'm playing the odds. Like, I could see it, and I'm not like totally ruling it out or anything, but just odd-wise, I'm saying no.
Nomo, FOMO, and Laura both on no as well. Scott, you think they trade for Verlander?
He wants his Houston guy here.
I want a good pitcher. I want the deadline to matter. I don't want them to trade for a whole lot of mid. I want like an impact guy. But I'm gonna say no. And Eduardo Rodriguez, no. I don't want Eddie. Yes. I don't want Eduardo Rodriguez, man.
I think it's gonna be yes on Verlander, and I don't think it's going to involve one of the top 4 guys that I mentioned: Cartaya, Rushing, Sheehan, or obviously Bobby Miller, who I guess isn't even technically a prospect anymore. So
I think what we should do is let the show end with Blake telling people when the Verlander trade will break tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Pay attention between like 7 and 9 p.m. because I'm going to be at the movies seeing Ninja Turtles. So that's when it's going to break, and we're 100% sure of this.
Oh, I don't know. If it were me, Blake, I probably would have kept the specific movie I was going to see. I might have kept that one to myself. I might have said, it's not Barbie, but I'll be at the movies between 7 and 9.
The reviews on that movie are all coming out great, and Ninja Turtles are amazing.
Scotty, did you pack him his juice box?
I was going to say, stay tuned to his Twitter for a very mediocre review with his hands covered in Sour Patch Kids sugar, spamming it down so fast. He's going to be hyped.
He's going to be bummed when Luke Skywalker doesn't come out, I think. So hopefully you're...
he said Barbie was good, so I'm in.
Barbie was
I've heard nothing but good things.
There you go. Well, stay tuned here. We will be live tomorrow. So check around 2:00. We will be doing a live show. A ton of folks joining. Justin Lorber, one of our prospect guys, is going to be hopping on with us toward the end. The trade deadline is 3 p.m. West Coast. We will be on about 45 minutes to an hour before that and stick around 30 minutes after. Matt, did I get that right this time? I keep screwing up when the trade deadline is. Are we good this time?
Yeah, you got it.
Perfect. Hey, we're less than 24 hours away, and I finally got it right. So there we go. But we'll see. I mean, if something breaks tonight, we might be able to hop on and do a late live show or something if a trade does go down on the off day. But stay tuned for that. That's Matt Moreno, Blake Williams, Scott Geirman. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, please check out Dodger Heads on podcast formats wherever you get it: Spotify, Google, Apple. search for Dodger Heads. We'd love a subscription, a rate and review. That would be greatly appreciated. If you're new to the YouTube page, please subscribe and ring the notification bell here as well. Again, tons of content, not just around the trade deadline, but all throughout the season. And then, of course, DodgerBlue.com. You can see writing from Matt, Scott, and Blake as well. Enjoy the rest of your day. And as always, folks, go Dodgers.